We'll open with the DC introductory video, of course, and then the DC plug background. We'll have existing systems model, proposed underground system model, the project status and timelines, the project scope and limits, maintenance of traffic, communication strategy, and then the contact information. And at this time, we'll watch the brief video and then I'll turn it over to Miriam.
The District of Columbia has experienced more violent storms in recent years, resulting in extensive power outages. For this reason, the district and PEPCO are working to reduce power outages by moving many of the overhead power lines underground to improve the infrastructure and enhance resiliency. Neighborhoods affected by construction will be notified well in advance of the project start date. This will include the posting of no parking signs. Construction will begin with the coordination of streets and sidewalks impacted in your neighborhood. Signs will be posted, and flaggers will direct vehicles and pedestrians around construction crews. Before any digging begins, other existing utility lines that may be in the path of construction will be carefully identified and marked in the field. In some cases, small plants, trees, and grass will need to be removed from public spaces to allow for digging and placement of new underground equipment. But we will do our best to retain as much vegetation as possible. Any public property disturbed by this work will be restored to its original condition. Construction workers will use asphalt saws to cut the pavement. A backhoe will dig a trench for the placement of the distribution line. Periodically along the main primary line, manholes and tap holes will be required to house equipment and to provide access for inspections and repairs. The backhoe will also be utilized in these cases to excavate for these structures. In order to meet jurisdictional safety requirements, shoring will be provided in the trench to ensure stability. PEPCO uses either fiberglass or plastic PVC conduit to protect underground power lines. Concrete will be poured into the trench to encase and secure the conduit, and steel plates will be placed over the trench temporarily to make the road usable to vehicle traffic. After the concrete is set, the steel plates will be removed and the trench will be repaved in sections. Transformers, switches, and other ancillary equipment will be set in place. Equipment such as transformers and switches will be installed either in the roadway or the sidewalk, depending on space availability. Underground cable will be installed. Landscaping will be restored as needed and roads paved. Overhead primary electric wires will be removed from poles, but secondary service and communication lines will remain. Finally, the new underground power lines will be energized. While electricity will remain on throughout the project, there will be a short scheduled outage needed to switch from the overhead lines to the new underground system. We appreciate your patience while the district and PEPCO improve the future of electrical service for the District of Columbia residents.
And I'll turn this over to Miriam at this point.
Miriam, you're on mute.
Thanks, Ron. Again, good evening. This is Miriam Abrini. I'm the PEPCO DC Plug Manager, and I will go over the background of this program. So this program started back in 2012 when the DC Mayor Vincent Gray established the Powerline Underground Task Force following the severe storms that had a large impact on most of the DC residents. In May of 2013, the task force recommended a partnership between PEPCO and the District of Columbia, and in May 2014, the Electric Company Infrastructure Improvements Finance Act became law. So in May 2017, the Council of the District of Columbia amended the law, and right after DDOT and PEPCO submitted their application for approval for the first biennial plan, which got approved on November 2017. And in January 2020, the second biennial was approved, followed by the approval of the third biennial in January of 2022. This is a multi-year program to underground up to 20 feeders of the most vulnerable overhead feeders in Ward 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8, with a total budget of $500 million allocated among PEPCO, District of Columbia, and DDOT. Go to the next slide. The feeders in terms of the frequency of the outages, the duration, as well as the customer minutes per interruption. We took the performance period and we ranked those feeders based on those KPIs. And we chose the worst or the least performing feeders that are susceptible to a overhead power line outages. Basically, whenever you have a storm, we have 3 outages, and then it impacts a large of customers if it's on the main trunk of the feeder. So we analyzed the data and we selected 20 feeders, including some opportunistic feeders that basically DDOT was working on. We finalized the feeder selection for inclusion into the biennial plans. This slide is basically just showing how the houses are served. So you have the overhead lines and you see the trees. So anytime you have a tree falling on a line, basically all the customers on that feeder are out, and that's basically showed as red. So green means that you have the light, and red, that means you have an outage due to a tree falling on line. With the undergrounding, which will go on the next slide, since we're undergrounding the main line, if we have a tree that falls on a line due to some storms or wind or whatever, we still have power, okay? Because, you know, we're not touching, we're actually burying the cable. So you don't have an outage anymore. There will be some sections, however, that basically have the only outage that's going to happen would be on a minimum concentration, which is basically a couple houses due to the service. But the main line will still be energized. Okay. This slide is showing the current status of your feeder, which is 15021. We basically in April 2023, we had the 30% designed. And in August 2023, we had 65. Then we met with the council member, Louis George, on December 2023. And today we're having the open house, and we anticipate 100% final submission of the design by the end of February. And also we're going to meet with the DC Public Service Commission in March to basically submit the final design. And I'll turn it to Cesar for the construction timeline.
Thank you, Miriam. When it comes to the feeder 15021 construction timeline, the civil construction will start around winter 2025. The civil construction will be complete. We're expecting the civil construction to be completed around summer 2027. Electrical construction will be completed around fall 2027, and then anticipated to be energized fully around fall 2027 as well, right after all the electrical construction is finished. Next slide. As part of the project scope, or some of the items that we will be performing during this construction session for the civil construction section, we take in consideration erosion and sediment control. We do installation of dump banks, electrical manholes, tap holes, and transformer enclosures, along with the roadway restoration as mentioned in the video. Pavement markings restoration, of course, it comes with the roadway restoration, and then the electrical work will begin following the completion of the civil construction. For the small question on the chat, the difference between civil construction and electrical construction, civil construction involves the excavation, the installation itself, and the in the movement of all the equipment. in difference to the electrical type, which is connecting and making sure that it can be energized and give the electrical conduit and provide energy to the house. Next slide. Some of the images on how you're going to see these are some of the images on the finished work from the product of the civil construction. You're going to see on the first image on the top left, you're going to see a transformers closure. That's how it looks. This in this particular case is next to the sidewalk, next to the curb on the what we call the buffer zone, the grass area. Switch manhole is the second image on the top right corner. What you see in the image is a sidewalk along with a manhole, but in reality, if you pull out that manhole, we can go down and you can see all the electric hardware that we need for the electrification of this of the neighborhood. And last but not least, we do have tap holes, which is the bottom image. What you see in the image is just a square entry box in the grass zone next to the curb. However, as the video mentioned, they can be located in the sidewalk, grass zone, or in the road. Next slide. As part of the project scope, we also have the feeder 15021 and covers different areas within the Ward 4 and the Brentwood neighborhood. Um, uh, the limits, this map shows all the imagery. If we can go back to the map really quick, Peyton, I apologize. You can see the limits on the northern boundary will be Aspen Street. On the west side, it will be 16th Street. On the bottom side, you got Missouri Avenue along with some of the small corridors to cover up around Kansas Avenue. Next slide. These are, this imagery provides, on the next imagery, so the next couple of imageries, you're going to see top imagery view of the residents and the neighborhood of Brentwood. And the blue lines that you see with the little square boxes identify the locations of the electrical conduit work. Currently, this is Aspen Street and 13, and you can see the neighborhoods. You can see the circuits and the conduits, how they connect with each other. This is Van Buren and Whittier. You know, those little square boxes that can barely be seen, those are either switch hole, transformer enclosures, or tap holes. Next slide. You're going to see this is the 13th Place and 13th Street area next to Georgia Avenue on the neighborhood side. Underwood Street with Luzon, again, connections, switch manholes, transformer enclosures. The bigger boxes that you can see more rectangular, those are mostly transformer enclosures or tap holes. And then as you can see, we go along the roadways and we also alternate between the roadways and the sidewalk to make it safe for not only for pedestrians and users, but we also do it for those that are going to be working on the electrical. This is Tuckerman Street, along with 14th Street. We're going to see more images where they show the connectivity with all the other map imageries. Again, Tuckerman and 13th Street in this specific case, similar to Penny Branch. And then this is 16th Street on the west side of the project and the limits, and moving through Somerset with Sheridan Street. Same thing, Sheridan, Somerset, moving along to the right side, 14th Street, 13th Street. Again, we arrive to Piney Branch and we do the connection. And this is the bottom side, Rittenhouse, with 16, moving to the east side, moving eastbound along Rittenhouse and 14, and then following up with 13th Street on the next image. And then moving down through Piney Branch Road, and then moving on to Rittenhouse and then moving up again. Through 13th Street, of course, and then Fort Stevens Drive and Quincono Street west. And then this is the Peabody and northern section, I believe, northern section Peabody Street and 13, along with Rock Creek Ford Road. And of course, Missouri Avenue on the bottom right side, where it connects with Georgia. So that makes my assumption incorrect. That was the bottom side, Missouri Avenue corridor, and along with Marietta Place. Connecting Missouri Avenue. You can see how we transfer from left to right and north-south on the road. This is Longfellow and 5th Street, I'm sorry. And then again with retrieving back to Missouri Avenue and Longfellow. Next slide, Missouri. This is all Missouri Avenue and Longfellow. Again, all this connectivity is happening along the streets, but at the same time, we do parking restrictions during the time of work. You will see the notification signs within 3 days prior, 3 days prior, 72 hours prior, which leads me to this slide, maintenance of traffic during construction. We will maintain accessibility for residents and businesses and schools. During the active work, if we're next to the schools, our timeframes will change. It's not the normal hours for construction. We do reduce the time for the contractor to do the civil work. Um, Parking impacts, it will be minimum 72 hours in advance notice. We will provide safe accommodations for pedestrians and bicyclists, and we'll provide, during the construction, along with the public outreach team, we'll be coordinating with the residents and keeping all the residents informed and the neighborhoods and the district residents and visitors informed of the current standings of the project, leading to some of the typical sections or basically views of what you're going to see on the street when this work starts performing. In this specific case, we got the work zone on the left side of the imagery. We will block that section with drums or New Jersey barriers, all depends on the what type of work are we doing. We will provide necessary bike lanes for both sides and also travel lanes for both sides. Next slide. Another alternative, it will be with along with the parking space. We will provide parking space along with 2 travel lanes and of course the work zone on the right side or the left side. It will alternate depending on where we're working. We do have sometimes we do some minor work in the medians or in the middle of the travel lanes. When it's that time, we will provide both travel lanes around the median section of the work zone, along with parking on the maintaining the parking on the left side. Next slide. And this is another typical section of the maintenance of traffic or a traffic control plan where we will be working on the right side, but provide travel lanes on the left side. And then I'll turn it over to Raisha.
Thanks, Cesar. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. Hope so.
Yes, we can.
So my name is Raisha Quarry. I'm with the DC Plug Communications team, and we're just going to go over all the communications that we plan to do for you all. So right now we're in the design phase. We're hosting our virtual open house tonight. So in the design phase, next up we have our TE enclosure meetings with those residents who have TE enclosures near their homes, in the public space near their homes, as well as we have at 100% design, the outreach team plans to go out and distribute a one-pager that summarizes the whole design and give you some expectations of what will happen during construction. Once we get into the construction phase, we start to implement the education plan. So DC Plug is creating an education plan to ensure that the community gets proper engagement throughout the DC Plug initiative. So during the pre-construction phase of civil construction, you guys will get a 30-day notification, then again a 15-day notification, and then again a 7-day notification, and then you'll start to see those 72-hour notice no parking emergency signs that everyone's been talking about. We'll follow up with resident letters as needed. Those are, if there's something special going on, the outreach team will distribute a resident letter to give you an update. We also have TE letters, and those are just reminders to the TE, those people with the TE enclosures near their homes to remind you from the design phase that the TE enclosure is coming. It's just a reminder letter. We distribute the schedule every 2 weeks to all residents that sign up to be a part of our listserv. If you'd like to do that, please let us know. You can do it on the website or send an email directly to me or to the questions email, the DC Plug questions email. We do traffic advisories anytime there's a change in the traffic pattern per DDOT rules. And then we also attend the ANC meetings during the civil construction phase regularly. So that at that point, the outreach team would attend and give a quick update prior to when they're doing an announcement, just let everybody know where we are. And if we're asked to come back and do a presentation, we're certainly open to that. We, of course, like I've been saying, we have a dedicated outreach team that will be put into place to do all of these tasks. For the electrical phase, after we finish with civil construction, we go into the electrical phase. It's not as impactful as the civil and construction, so we do still attend the ANC's meetings regularly, and then we make sure that everyone gets 72 hours notice whenever there is a loss of power. that doesn't happen until the electrical phase. And again, we're still in the design phase. We do send out notifications and phone calls prior to that, and you guys will get plenty of notice. Any special, anybody with any healthcare or any issues like that, we do have a list of that via PEPCO, and we'll notify them at least 2 weeks prior to that. Next slide. Oh, okay. I don't think this is my slide, but I guess at the end of the meeting, the Title VI slide will come up, and this is just a survey to give us your opinion on the meeting. We appreciate to get those stats and see where we can improve and things of that nature. You can use the QR code. It should pop up at the end of the meeting as well. And next slide.
Thank you, Ray. No, you took that slide from me. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
I'm so sorry. I was like, this is my slide.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peyton Manning. I'm a community outreach coordinator on this specific project for the design phase. But at this point in the meeting, we can open it up to any questions that you may have. I do see a few came in the chat and the Q&A. Please, if you want to send anything in the chat or Q&A, we'll capture it there, but you can also raise your hand and we'll unmute you. But for now, let's start with the first question in the Q&A, which was, how does the city decide where the enclosures will be placed in relation to individual properties? Which, Ron, maybe you.
That's really an electrical question because the electrical design will dictate the approximate location of all the manholes, tap holes, transformer enclosures. The civil portion just basically implements where that, how that design is going to be completed. So from a civil standpoint, we're just following what the electrical or PEPCO has given us to complete the design and implement in construction. Does that answer your question?
Great. Miriam, I see you just came up. Do you have anything to add or?
No, I just wanted to add that basically, whatever we see right now on overhead, we're undergrounded almost in the same site, so we're following the same route of that overhead, but going underground. So that's basically why Ron is mentioned. It comes from the electrical. It's the existing electrical. Then we dig the ground and we put conduits, and that's where the cable is gonna follow. So
Perfect.
hopefully
Thank you.
that clarifies a little bit.
And then secondly, with the expected outages in the electrical phase, how much warning will people be given in advance? If this were to fall in the summer, AC is pretty necessary. And Raisha, you may have touched on that, but is it 72 hours?
Yeah, so
Right.
no, you won't be out of power for 72 hours. It will be there. It won't be longer than 4 hours.
No, I meant notification.
Oh, okay,
How much
72.
notifications given?
Yes, you do get 72 hours notification whenever we're gonna take any power away. Yeah. So we do phone calls, and we also do letters, door to door.
Perfect. And I see some hands raised, so I will go ahead and unmute you. First, Abel, I see your hand is raised, so I'm going to unmute you now. And you should be unmuted.
Yes. I'm Abel. I'm the ANC commissioner for DO2. I noticed the route of this is largely along Missouri Avenue, and this is more of a question for DDOT. There are a number of traffic issues with Missouri Avenue itself. And I'm sorry, I came in late to this meeting, so I hope I'm still talking about the right topic. Looking at the map, I saw most of this will be along Missouri Avenue, and I just wanted to ask if DDOT has any concurrent plans of any work. I'm just thinking if this is going to disrupt traffic, this is an opportunity to make other improvements. I just wanted to know if there is any other plans of work on Missouri avenues that are related to just traffic safety and pedestrian safety that will go along with this, or is there any plans of that? Yeah, anything related to that would just wanted more clarification. Thank you.
As far as other work, I can't give you a definitive answer tonight. If you could, you, the council member or the ANC chairman for, I forget, 4D, what we can do is we can check and see, but typically we've done sort of an evaluation to see if there's an ongoing DDOT project. And if there were, then portions or all of the feeder would be incorporated into that DDOT reconstruction project. And that is what we call an opportunity project. I don't believe this feeder has any opportunities for being integrated with with an ongoing or an up and coming DDOT project. But we can try to check again and get back to you with an affirmative positive answer.
Thank you, Ron. And Mark, I see in the chat you had a very similar question. And I believe Ron's answer may have answered that as well. But please, if you have any other questions, feel free to send it and we'll go into further detail. I do have another hand raised, a 202-465 number. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you're ready. We should be able to hear you now. Hello. There you are. No, okay. I'm going to mute you again and lower your hand. If you want to speak, please just raise your hand and we'll grab you again. I'm checking right now to make sure there's no other questions. Walden, you said, is it possible to get a copy of the presentation? Yes, the presentation will be posted on the project website, dcpluginfo.com. If you go to the feeder 15021 tab, you can find it there. Just give us about a week to get it on there, but it will be on there at some point next week.
Peyton, I just got a notification that on Aspen Street, we do have a piece of our feeder will be integrated with a DDOT reconstruction project. So in that case, that portion of the work will actually be done by DDOT in their reconstruction of the Aspen Street, or the portion of Aspen Street that's being reconstructed.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, Ron. I see Fidel, you have your hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And we should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry, I think I joined late as well. So I'm not sure if this has been covered, but I was just wondering when, I know this, everyone's been saying it's in design phase. Do you have an ETA on when you think the work will begin? And then question 2 is, if work is being done in front of my residence, for example, do you have an estimate of, of how long that work will take between the construction or the civil and the electrical phases, those 2 phases? And those are my questions.
Sure. So I'm just running back to the timeline. Right now, the proposed start is winter 2025. Caesar, perhaps you can speak to how long they'll be in front of individual homes or within a block.
Yeah, so it's pretty much a quick work within the blocks. That all depends on the type of work. If we do an excavation and moving around, if we do an excavation or installation of tap hole, you can see us over there for a week. Sometimes it takes 3 days. It all depends on the weather as well, weather and condition permittings. But at the same time, we keep moving piece by piece. within that block. And then, but you do get notifications not only 3 days ahead of time, but our public outreach team will be always informating and providing information to the ENCs. We do have a alert system that you will get notifications. We do have a 2-week look ahead schedule. So the information to the ENCs will be accelerated like to a month schedule. You 30 days ahead of time, you will know when we're going to your block. 13 to 14 days ahead of time, 14 to 30 days, you'll know ahead of time where we're heading to your block. And sometimes it takes a week or two, depending on the type of work and what type of installation of conduit we're doing. I hope
Let
that
me-
answered your question. And Ron, yes,
Caesar,
please
let
share.
me just add to that. The work will, is best to be thought of as going in phases. The first phase will be the saw cutting of the roadway surface, and then the removal and excavation, and the inserting of the conduits, and then backfilling with concrete to encase those conduits, and then backfilling with soil. However, while the excavation is open, there will be steel plates placed across the excavation so that cars can traverse the roadway. Um, when we get just about everything all the way up and we put temporary asphalt, it'll be a while before we come back and actually do the final restoration of the roadway surface. So it'll be, several passes as this process goes on. So the individual time in front of your house will be, maybe a week or several days per pass, if that makes it clearer for you.
And Ron, while I have you, there's a question that is similar. Will the work progress from one end to the feeder area to the other, or is it more sporadic?
We do not dictate the way the work progresses. That's what we call means and methods, which is left up to the contractor. However, when we give notice to proceed, we will have a pretty general idea in their cost-loaded schedule that which structures are going in, where they're going in, and they will have multiple crews, and the crews will be working in several different areas, and we won't know until we actually start construction how that will go. But we provide 3-week to 4-week look ahead schedules every week that will be posted on the DC Plug info website, and that way you can see which streets, which areas are affected. Um, I forget the other thing that I was going to mention. Uh, anyway, I can't. It slipped my mind right now, but I hope that answers your question.
No, I think that certainly did. And just to be clear, so everybody knows, the website is www.dcpluginfo.com. That should also be on the collateral that you received to attend the meeting. And then 202-465, I see you have your hand raised again. I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute you. Let's see. You should be unmuted now. Still not picking up any audio from you.
Hello?
Yes, there you go. Okay.
Okay, I don't know why it's not working from my end, but anyway, I have a few questions because a couple of my neighbors couldn't attend. So I don't know if that's okay for me to ask like 3 questions.
Sure, of course.
Okay, is the city providing parking alternatives?
No.
Okay. Do you know right now which properties will be impacted or not until the design phase is completed?
Yes, we would have a definite once we have completed the design phase.
And I'm sorry, I think you did mention when that will be. Do you have a
That's,
estimate on?
well, let's just say the construction phase is like the winter of 25, I believe is what we said on slide 2 or 3.
Right, yeah, I can't see the slides. I've been writing things down.
Oh,
Uh, I-
but we will send, this presentation will be available. Is that,
Okay,
how
yeah.
are we sending that out, Peyton?
Yeah, I
The
heard it'll
pres-
be on YouTube.
It'll be on YouTube and it will also be on the project website, dcpluginfo.com.
Okay.
But
Is the construction only occurring at the front yard, or will it be front yard and backyard, or alley?
so everything happening in the public space. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, basically, it's in the roadway or in what we call public parking, which is the green space between the curb and eventually where your property line is, but your property
Okay.
line is typically inside of that. So we're doing everything within public space, essentially.
Okay. And the last question I have is anything being done for rodent control?
Did you say rodent control?
Yes,
I
rodent,
mean, like
because
rats
with,
and things?
yeah, because with digging up all of this stuff, it's going to create a rodent problem.
Well, we've got 4 feeders currently going. We've completed 3, and we really haven't experienced that. Again, the contractor is supposed to be cleaning up their trash and and policing the site. And if there's no, I mean, if there's no additional trash around, there'd be no reason for rodents necessarily to congregate there. And just digging up the earth, rodents are not going to come out of the earth. I mean, we're digging up under the roadway, if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. My neighbors who've lived here longer, they claim that whenever road work was done, it caused rodent problems. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
You're
certainly.
welcome.
If you were to have any issues, you would just talk to your outreach team when the construction starts, and they can work with the contractors to try to find a solution if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, I see your hand is raised again. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you as well.
Sorry, are you going to me?
Yep.
Assuming?
Mhm.
One more question. Sorry to take up
No.
a space, but you know, there is not a lot of tree coverage along Missouri Avenue. I keep asking about Missouri Avenue because that's in my single member district.
Mhm.
So I am concerned about any loss of tree cover. So I just wanted to know if you are expecting any loss of tree cover and how you are involving, the various agencies that deal with urban forestry cover and all that. I just wanted to understand, like, are we losing any trees? Do you expect that? And if we are, how do you hope to mitigate that? Yeah.
Okay, well, we do work closely with urban forestry. We don't intentionally take out any trees, especially the heritage trees. We try to avoid and have protection for the trees and the roots. But occasionally on small trees, we may have to have those removed and a similar tree would be replaced. And that's what we've been doing for this program so far. Um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. And then I have a question in the chat, and I believe you touched on this, Ron, but just for the record, will my lawn be dug up? Again, all the work is done in the public space, so you shouldn't really see much work outside of past the sidewalk. Another question in the chat is, will this change make it easier to eventually safely install street adjacent charging for electric vehicles?
That's really a PEPCO question, but no, it's not really going to have any effect on street charging. What the purpose of this program is to make the power coming to everyone's house more resilient and reliable. So by putting these what we call main feeders, which are the 13 kV or the 4 kV lines underground, then the secondaries, which would only feed a small number of houses, as was shown in one of the earlier slides, you would only have a small number of homes that could possibly lose power should a tree or some other thing knock down the power lines. The other piece of this is we're not removing, and again, that was brought out in the video, any of the communication lines as well. So the poles will remain. The only wires, if you will, that will be removed are the top 3 wires on the poles.
Great. Thank you, Ron. And Commissioner, I lowered your hand. I wasn't sure if you had re-raised it. Please raise it again if you want to speak again. And then the same goes to 202-465. I wasn't sure if it was from the previous questions, but please raise it again if you would like. I have no other questions at the moment. If you do have anything, please send it in the Q&A or the chat or raise your hand. For the time being, I just want to reiterate for those on the phone, the project website is dcpluginfo.com. You can find this presentation posted there under feeder 15021. The project email is questions@dcpluginfo.com. And there is a 24-hour phone line, 1-844-758-4146. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out via the project email or project phone number. Again, the phone number is 1-844-758-4146. And the project email is questions@dcpluginfo.com. And at this time, I'm still not seeing any more questions. So at this point, I'd just like to thank everybody for their time and coming out to attend this evening's meeting. And that should close it out. I really appreciate it.